Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, never touch your truck again? You got it, neighbor. Nothing you can do about stolen food? Okay. Make sure his store is the first one you deliver. Consider it done. Why don't I put up a fence if I don't want your kid climbing in my trees? Done. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Never touch your truck again? You got it, neighbor. I posted this on the AITA sub, but many people were saying it is MC and to post it here too. I, 59M, live in a major city in Ontario, Canada. I live in a small subdivision and have 5 neighbors total on my street. For the past few years during the winter when we're getting a lot of snow or bad storms, as I'm leaving for my overnight shift at around 8 to 9 p.m. I'll put my wife's windshield wipers up on her car and do a quick walk around to my other 5 neighbors and put their windshield wipers up on their cars, obviously not if they're outside or something, but if it looks like they're in for the night. Many of them forget to do this, as many of them have children and it typically slips their mind, and their wipers will be frozen to their car in the morning. It's just something nice I like to do to look out for my neighbors. They're all always grateful of this and thank me for it. Many of them started doing it too, and there will be nights where I'll forget to put mine and my wife's up, and in the morning one of the neighbors has done it for us. Anyway, recently one of our neighbors moved and a new family moved in as of last week. It's a young couple and their 2 young children. The other night I was leaving for my overnight shift at around 9 p.m. It was snowing really heavy and we were supposed to be getting almost 30 centimeters of snow and it was freezing out. So I put my wife's wipers up and do my usual quick walk around to the other neighbors. I was hesitant when I reached my new neighbor's house, as I've only introduced myself once, but did it anyway. As I was putting the second wiper up on their pickup truck, the husband came charging out of his front door yelling, "Hey, what the F***ck are you doing to my truck?" I tried to explain to him I was just putting his wipers up to help him. He continued to scream at me to get the hell off my property and don't touch my **t again. The wife then came out and started yelling at me too. I apologized and started walking away. Some of my other neighbors heard the commotion and came outside to see what was happening. They tried explaining to him too that it's just something we do, both of them wasn't having it. Fast forward to this morning, I'm arriving home from my overnight shift and as I'm walking in I see the wife of this couple struggling outside to break the ice off the windshield wipers of the truck. Guess she was trying to take her kids to school and the wipers were frozen solid on the car. She sees me and yells over, "Hey there. Do you mind giving me a hand, please?" I look over to her and yell back, "No, sorry, thought I was to never touch your **t again, ma'am," and walked back inside. She yelled back at me, "Wow, Told my wife about this. She thinks I should have helped her because she was just trying to get her kids to school. I disagree as I was just following what they told me. Nothing you can do about stolen food? Okay. Mandatory English is not my first language. I saw a story of stolen food at work and reminded me of one of my husband's stories, so I decided to share it. Over 15 years ago, my husband was a nurse technician at a private hospital in a small town in Brazil. At the hospital, there was a constant problem of food being stolen from the employees' fridge. There were constant complaints, but the administration would just ignore them. One day my husband brought a pot of cream cheese, requeijo, worth 2 reais, about 50 cents, put it in the fridge, and when his break came he saw it missing. He went to HR to report the theft and they told him that since it was not hospital property, there was nothing they could do. My husband just said, "Is that so?" turn around and left. He went to the phone and called the cops asking them to come because there was a theft. He didn't tell them what was stolen. Now, private hospitals in Brazil have a big thing about image, so when two cop cars arrived at the front of the hospital, everyone, from patients, employees, HR, and even the top administration, came to see what was going on. One of the cops that arrived ended being one of my husband's uncles, so he just went straight to ask him what happened. My husband, with the most serious expression, just told him, loud enough for everyone to hear, that he wanted to make an official report that someone stole his 50-cent pot of cream cheese. There was a general silence before his uncle asked, "Are you serious?" If I knew this was about a 50-cent pot of cheese, we would not have come, and would have told you to go to the station to make the report if you wanted. My husband just answered with a smile, "I know. That is why I did not say what was stolen, and now you have to make the report," which he did. Obviously, the police wouldn't do anything about it, but because of the whole circus that my husband created, the next week the hospital installed a camera right in front of the employee's fridge and the food theft finally stopped. Make sure his store is the first one you deliver. Consider it done. After I left active duty service, serving on board a ship, all I wanted to do was drive, so in 1999 I got a driving job delivering meat in Southern California. It was a tough job, dealing with traffic, and my schedule was always tight with 16 to 20 deliveries each day to local markets. I was mostly given inner city routes with markets with limited space for mid-sized delivery trucks. One of my weekly stops was a small market owned and run by an Iraqi immigrant. I will call him Ali. Ali was always scheduled to be my fifth or sixth stop and would always complain to me why I would show up that late, after 9 a.m. each time. He said he wanted to the first one of the day. I told him I knew he opened each day after 8 a.m. each weekday and that I start my route at about 6:15 a.m. Plus I don't schedule my route. If he wanted to make sure he was the first delivery of the day, he would have to call Steve, our delivery route supervisor. Ali in fact called Steve, because the very next week I received special instructions that read, "Make sure Ali's market is your first delivery of the day." I had my normal amount of stops that day, about 18, and I knew they all will be pushed back at least 2 hours, because I knew Ali won't open until 8 a.m. and he will not open the rear door until an hour later. The rear door was for deliveries and trash bin access. I began driving at my usual time. I arrived at Ali's market 15 minutes later. Ali's market is closed. I had my orders. I will make sure Ali's market is the first one of the day. I park and wait. 8 o'clock came and Ali shows up. He drives his old Benz around the back of my truck and parks, and walks inside through the back door. I wait for him to open the front and he ignores me. He was busy pretending to supervise the cashier, intentionally ignoring me, so I walk to the meat counter on the back. The guy tells me he was not allowed to take deliveries, that I had to wait for Mr. Ali. At this point I could have gone to make 2 or 3 deliveries and then return, but I had my very specific order. As I was walking towards the front to exit the market, I grabbed a newspaper, paid for it, and then told Ali, who was just standing there looking at me, "Let me know when you are ready to take your order, you know where I parked." Ali didn't say a word. He was apparently taking revenge for all these years for his small city market not being the number one priority of a meat distributor who delivered beef, pork, chicken, cheese, and other refrigerated products from over 12 distribution points throughout the United States. Steve arrived to his desk right after 10 a.m. The first thing he saw on his computer screen was an alert of my truck sitting inert for 4 hours. He called me all in a rage, demanding I explain to him why my truck was sitting for all that time. I explained that I was following his order to make sure I deliver to Ali's market first. Steve hanged up and called Ali. Whatever Steve told Ali made Ali to get his Winnie butt out of his crappy little market and take delivery of his meat order, about 14 boxes of product, if I recall correctly. I then began to rush through the rest of my stops, not wasting time at all, and at the end of my day I was the last driver back to the warehouse. I got an extra $80 on overtime because Ali cried for not being the first delivery of the day. I never returned to see Ali again. Apparently we dropped his Winnie but as a customer. Why don't I put up a fence if I don't want your kid climbing in my trees? Done. Not myself, but my aunt has some new neighbors renting the house next to her, owned property. These guys have a toddler and a slightly older child and dog that they love to leave outside unattended, absolutely priceless when child services showed up and the 2-year-old was alone in the front yard. The bigger kid had started coming into her yard and climbing one of her trees, and she asked them to keep their kid out of her yard and trees kindly as she doesn't want a lawsuit if the kid falls and breaks a leg on her property. Guy says if it's such a big deal, why don't you just put up a fence? She cut down the tree the kid was climbing and a few others and stacked all the limbs into a 6-foot wall of natural fence. Guy was pissed. Asked her why she had to be such a b*tch about it. Sorry, thought we were taking your advice LMAO. Edit, to everyone really concerned about the trees, she was already planning to get rid of them due to rot and proximity to the house. The fence idea just came up after this guy decided to be a jerk about keeping his kid out of her yard. She was just going to have the wood hauled off until that conversation struck the fence idea. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.